сьогодні він буде говорити про питання Криму з точки зору міжнародного права. Ларіс, тобі слово.
Thank you very much. Hello, how are you? First of all, of course, Mr. President, my best regards. And thank you very much for inviting me to this conference. I'm really very glad to be there with you. Unfortunately, not live, but I hope that the next time we will be sitting all together once again. I thank you very much also, Carlos, for giving me a few points that I will develop now in my analysis about the Crimean issue. And I beg your pardon if probably I will be flying a little bit high in the next hour, because unfortunately, I think that we have to see everything from the geopolitical perspective. And then we will come, of course, we will focus also on the legal issues. Another apology is that I will be quite rude probably in my explanation, because we are entering now in a very real political field. And I once again, I really thank you, Carlos, for giving me few points that I can develop that are really very much real politics. It means what? The support, the international support, and the naiveness. Don't be naive. Thank you, Carlos. That's the real point. We have to be very much founded on the ground, and we have to analyze the situation as it is, not only from the bilateral perspective of the Russian and the Ukrainian point of views, but especially trying to draw, to shape a very clear international, European, and global picture. You invited me here because probably I'm also a member of the platform, of the Crimean platform, on the level of the experts. And let's start from this point. Yes, it's a good decision. It's a great move. It's a good initiative. Why? Because it is putting together experts, politicians. It's showing, of course, awareness. It's showing proactiveness from the Ukrainian side. And it's, of course, proving let's say, the peaceful way of solving the problem. But especially the Crimean platform is the instrument, is the tool that is fixing one very much important fact in international law. It means you are not giving up with the issue. Because as you know, and here I open shortly a bracket, also Slovenia should have understood in relation with Croatia that if you do not push, if you do not problematize an issue for a long period, of course, you are admitting that the issue is not anymore relevant and it's not anymore a problem. So given that, and we will see it, the Crimean problem very likely is a problem that will be a long-standing problem. Well, it's correct that the Ukrainian side is preparing itself in order to manage for on the long term the issue. And the platform is one of these. Now, just to give you, I'm very much sorry, of course, I'm not following the Ukrainian internal information media systems, so I don't know which details are known or not to you, but I can tell you from inside what was our biggest problem. Well, one of the issues that I found very much interesting. The platform is open to everyone. It means it's open also to the Russians. But what was the problem, at least on the level of the experts, that we would like to have Russians on board, and we would like to see the counterpart, or to have the analysis from the counterpart, maybe also to find, of course, supporters of the Ukrainian point of view, but that is quite impossible Why it is impossible? It's impossible because I was informed that because of the Russian law, if anybody is trying to cooperate with a foreign institution on a national interest issue, well, that person can be jailed or can be persecuted as a traitor or similar. Well, of course, this is not our aim. This is not our target. We don't want to put to give problems or to put people in an unpleasant positions. So that was the reason why the Crimean platform, unfortunately, at least at this level, couldn't enjoy the presence of Russian experts, of Russian representatives. That's the first point. The point of view of the international law, that is the main point of my presence here today. Well, it's quite clear. Ukraine is on the right side, and Russia is on the guilty side. But sorry if I'm trying to be always very much Balkanocentric, but we have to understand that all the problem is originated since the 90s, at least, in the Balkan region. Because what is happening to you and what is giving to the Russian Federation the ground to act, it's very much linked to what happened in the ex-Yugoslavian environment in the 90s and the beginning of the 2000s. What am I referring to? I'm referring, of course, to the disintegration of Yugoslavia, to the referendum for the independence of Kosovo, to the way as the independence of Kosovo has been managed or is still managed, and how it is problematized. Now, to clarify, you know perfectly that the Russian President Putin referred many times to the Kosovo issue as a precedence in the international law, in the international relations, on which build the legalization of the referendum or in Crimea and the annexion of Crimea to the Russian Federation. This is true. This is a good excuse. We will see it's not really fitting perfectly, but we have to understand what is happening in the region between Russia, Serbia, Kosovo, and the West. If on one side, Russia is still supporting the position of Serbia, that is, of course, not recognizing Kosovo as an independent state, this is not really the true will of the Russian authorities. This is the game, this is the theater. Because, of course, supporting the being against the independence of Kosovo is giving a sort of position not to be manipulated, or let's say, not to having the Russian environment and the Russian territory manipulated by the same issues. Of course, this is one of the biggest problems for Russia, as of course also for Spain, of our friend Carlos. But at the same time, it's quite clear, I think, to any smart analyzers, that the real will of Putin is to get through until the end with the Kosovo issue. So to have Kosovo clearly independent, and of course with an independence that is approved also from Serbia. Why? Because this is giving to Putin, to the Russian authorities, 2 points. First, the independence of Kosovo based on a referendum, and the independence of Kosovo, that means that maybe even in the eastern part of Ukraine, this could be a base for a next move. So taking de facto a territory until the end on the precedence of what happened in ex-Yugoslavian environment. So your case is strictly linked. with what is going on in the heart of the Balkans. The Crimean issue wouldn't have been impossible without Kosovo, and everything that will happen in the future to you and in relation with Moscow is still very much linked to what will happen to Kosovo and in the Balkan region. Excuses. They are precedents in international law, they are precedents in international relations, and they are the excuses on which the Russian Federation can, of course, base, or if you want to use this word, manipulate the next international moves in regards toward Ukraine. Now, analyzing strictly the jure, what happened, I think that is clear also to you that the Crimean case is not a secession. So we cannot register it as a secession because we don't have, or let's say we never had so far, an independent Crimean state in the years that we are analyzing. It means that Crimea just moved, or let's say we have a border mobility of certain borders, moving from inside Ukraine to inside Russia without a secession. So it's a border mobility case. And this is giving us, this is restricting our legal framework of analysis. The most important principle on which, of course, the Russians are claiming let's say the attachment of Crimea to the Russian Federation is the autodetermination of people. That's clear. But even here, the Russian claims are quite weak, very weak. Why? Because this principle could be applied when we have the so-called remedial secession. Remedial secession is, we have it when a minority, let's say in this case the Russian minority in Ukraine, claims to be object of abuses, of oppression. And in that case, the international law could accept, of course, the autodetermination of people principle. But in order to guarantee this as a right, it is needed to, of course, use, as Carlos remembered us, all the internal legal procedures that, of course, the Ukrainian legal framework was offering. Even if the Ukrainian economic, social, political, and legal framework was destabilized in that period, it was still enough stable to guarantee the minorities' rights. So we cannot use the excuse of the oppressed and abused minority, Russian minority in Crimea, in order to call for remedial secession. And we cannot call it a secession because it was not a secession, but it was just an annexation, removing borders that were not existing. So we cannot call on jus cogens and the customer law, the international law, of the principle of the determination of people. Referendum as an excuse, well, yes and no. Let's say that here the excuse could be fine, so the tool could be fine. If we have a real free referendum telling us that we have a minority that would like to succeed from a state. But once again here, the Russian authorities made a mistake from their point of view, of course, because the military presence of the Russians were already on the field. So this kind of referendum cannot be recognized as a free democratic referendum expressing the free will of a minority. So we don't have so far, let's say, the international framework, legal framework that is giving the support, the real support. And this is, of course, also, I'm telling this informally, of course, I'm not talking in the name of the Crimean platform network, absolutely. But let's say this is also what has been discussed inside is the majority of the experts is also supporting as a point of view. So it is, of course, an illegal act. Now, on that, we have several violations of treaties. We have the violations of the Friendship Treaty between Russia and Ukraine, dated 1990. We have the violation of all the agreements on the CSI, and we have the violation of the agreement on the cooperation dated 1997, sorry, between Kiev and Moscow. So, pacta sunt servanda, of course, here they are not servanda. That's it. That is absolutely the conclusion. The conclusion is, from the international point of view, the legal point of view, the act is invalid, that the act must be problematized. The whole situation is against the international law. But here we are. You are in the flow of all the, let's say, geopolitical fluidity, if you can call in this way, in which we are living in the last decades. And this geopolitical fluidity is having your territory, your country, in the center of all the problems. Why? What happened to you? It's I'm convinced of that, but this is, of course, my personal opinion, so don't worry in quoting me. I'm absolutely convinced that what happened to you, it's a great part, the majority responsibility of the West. Partly, of course, of your, at that time, internal politics, and mainly in what the so-called West, if you want to call in this way, told to you, convinced you, and pushed you in a clear direction, so a direction of immediate cut, of cutting any breach toward Moscow, when your geopolitical position is very much clear, is in the middle between two words in this moment, that moment and in this moment. The word of the giant Russia and the word of the unstable European Union. It's in the middle of a geopolitical area, an arena, if you want, so-called Central Europe, that has been always the buffer zone between the national interest of Russia and the national interest of the West. So you are on the door. Being on the door, it's not, absolutely not an easy position, and it's not a nice position in geopolitics, but could be, if, let's say, well use it, win-win position. What is needed? It's needed wise political leadership. It's needed a wise and open-minded geopolitical knowledge. And of course, the readiness of your neighbors. At that time, I think we push it too easily and too quickly on our side without understanding the real political point of view of Moscow. I'm absolutely convinced that the administration of Mr. Obama should be guilty and take as responsible of what happened to you, because done in another way, more smoothly, more wisely, probably today we wouldn't be here talking about the problem of Ukraine non-joining EU, and we wouldn't have been here talking about the loss of a territory of Ukraine. So, starting from this point of view, that you are in the middle of two different geopolitical areas, is everything lost? Not at all. I think that, of course, first of all, the platform is a very good tool to maintain alive the problem, the issue. And this must be done, of course, by the Ukrainian side, because you are right on the legal point of view. But on the real political point of view, you are in a disparate situation. You lost your territory, and for I think quite a decade, you will live with this problem. You can solve it, of course. In the great moves of the international geopolitics, everything is possible, and in the future, it could be that we can find a solution. What is your position today? Well, you see, Europe is not an international actor, is not an international player. Let's be frank. We don't have power. We do not have a military force. We do not have a geopolitical strategy or a real unified will. You cannot count on us as a European Union. Of course, I'm talking. The United States of America has a problem that is called China. And if the United States of America finally will understood that the Obama administration created one of the biggest geopolitical monstrum in the history, and this is the friendship between Moscow and Beijing, probably in the next years and decades, I hope years, I would like to say months, but I think that unfortunately we do not have such a smart people in Washington. We have to reshape our relation with Russia because we have common enemies and we have common challenges. This idea, what I'm talking about, is nothing new. Come on. If you remember at the beginning of the 2000s, the joining of NATO, or let's say the Council NATO-Russia, if you remember the summits between Bush, Berlusconi, and Putin, if you remember everything that was have been building at that time in a relation between Washington, Brussels, and Moscow, well, that was the right move because we are culture and societies that we have a lot in common. Even if for a while we put aside all the national interest and the standard request, the geopolitical request of Russia that are of course very much oriented to the heart of Europe, it means passing on you and over you. But going to the heart of the question, the Chinese problem and the radicalization of the Islam, or let's say the jihad, are common problems of Brussels, Moscow, and Washington. And we could cooperate. We should cooperate. We should find at that time, and still today, a common language in order to challenge these two problems. As representatives of a common society with common history, religions, culture, etc., etc. So if our leaders in the near future, one day, will start to talk again one to each other, and if we will shape up a common framework of good friendship relation, I'm not saying that we have to be unified and we have to agree on everything. Of course, in that moment, in a completely new geopolitical environment, you can still have the hope to return in possession, let's say, or to find a solution of the Crimean problem. I'm not positive in this moment. This is my position. I'm sorry, of course, for that. I would like to be much more positive. I completely, as you know, support your European path. I completely support your will to join the North Atlantic organization. Absolutely, you have all my support. But being really real, we have to say that you are alone. And you are alone, and you are part just of the game of big actors, big players. Now you have to hope to be in the right position, with the right leadership, in the right moment. And of course, continuing to knocking at our doors and continuing to knocking in order to clarify to our leaders where you want to be and how. Just an example, how alone you are. As you know, many times your political representatives said, well, let's join NATO. There is no way, there is no reason, no legal reason that is stopping the possibility of a country that is in a war to be member of NATO, to become member of NATO. I think that you have seen the reaction, immediate reaction of the Estonian president. No go. Let's resolve. You have to solve first your problems, and then you can join NATO and European Union. Well, of course, that will be quite impossible. So you are, unfortunately, in a limbo between two world orders, one that is imploding, collapsing, and the one that is coming up. You are in the middle of a new generation of warfare, that is the hybrid warfare, that we are still trying to understand and to improve from our side. You are in the middle of two geopolitical wars, and you are in the middle between two different continents. So from the legal point of view, you are absolutely right. You are on the right side. Nobody can say anything. But on the real political point of view, you are unfortunately on the feeble side. This is my very quick analysis, but I think I would rather stop here in order to open the discussion that probably would be much more interesting. The last point is the point of the beginning. Your destiny, let's say, or the next move that will happen in your territory and your environment are very much linked to the Balkan case. As it was with Kosovo, or let's say with excuses that will happen in Bosnia and Herzegovina, this will have, of course, a domino effect also on your future. So I would stop here, and please let's open a much more interesting and dynamic debate.
Дякую, Ларіс, за чітку та чесну позицію з цього питання. І ми починаємо нашу дискусію, тому перше запитання, Ірино.
Hello, Laris, happy to see you here online in Pan-European Ukrainian Conference. My question is, as you said, Ukraine is all alone in this wild world. What position should Ukraine seek in terms of having influence and in terms to defend its interests and positions worldwide?
Of course.
Thank you.
We have some rules in geopolitics. And one of the most important rules is not to create frictions. Once that you are making an action, of course, you are creating a reaction. And now the most important thing is not to create action and reaction. It means create a friction with no way, no return back way on specifically always stressing only the Crimean case. So unfortunately, we have to focus on something completely different in creating a safe, or let's say more stable, pleasant environment of cooperation. And I know this is something that it seems to you probably on the field craziness, what I'm telling you, but between Kiev and Moscow, as much as possible, cooperation, trying to, let's say, to create a sort of honey trap to the Russians, and building at the same time, of course, very tight links with West. Starting absolutely from the point of view that I'm not of this vision. I would like to accept you immediately in NATO and European Union, but it will not happen. So you have to build everything, being in your mind that for the next years, forget European Union and forget the NATO. Of course, not declaring it, but having in your mind, in your political moves, in your political strategies, the clear idea that nobody wants you inside because you are a problem. And we have enough problems inside, and we are at the stake of surviving ourselves, that, believe me, in Brussels and in Washington, they don't want to see new problems. They prefer to leave you on the periphery and to see how you will manage the problem, if you will accept on the long term the case, and in the case of in the future, where everything will be moving again, we will see how to solve, let's say, the problem of Ukraine. So the point is on you. Can of course clearly say that many times I have had the pleasure at the Diplomatic Academy in Vienna, where I'm teaching, to have your junior diplomats in front of me. And that was really in the moments of the greatest friction between Russia and Ukraine. And they, of course, they asked me, what do we have to do? Well, the strategy is the strategy that Yugoslavia used, maybe, if you want, during the Cold War, to be friend of the East and be friend of the West, and trying to get the best from both, waiting for better moments and better environments on your advantage. So, of course, I have no clear answer to your very precise question, because politics are the art of inventing and the art of improvisation when it's needed. So I would prefer to be in the position of your prime minister than just an analyst from outside. But you have to surf on the wave, of course, of any opportunity, trying not, of course, to get in the trap that would like, that, let's say, the Russian side would like to see you in. That is the action-reaction on the Crimean case. That would be, of course, the worst. Of course, you have to maintain the case open, but don't stress only on that, but trying to, as I told you, shape a honey trap for them, for both, for Washington and for Russia, trying to put on their table what they have in common, Washington and Russia, Washington and Moscow, and how important it is to have a stable Ukraine, an Ukraine that is allied of both sides.
I have one more question, talking about the relations between Brussels and Moscow and Ukraine, somewhere in the middle of these relations. Can we say that the peace in Ukraine can be quite that Brussels and Moscow want Ukraine to be a peaceful country, as they are located near Ukraine and in the Europe, but that USA doesn't want it because they have nothing to do with our territory, I mean geographically. So it's quite, гадайте слово вигідно англійською. It is profitable for USA to have a conflict here near Russian Federation.
Well, of course, not for European Union, but
yeah,
European Union
maybe USA is okay with this.
Yes, because we have no other means. So let's say for the European Union, of course, to have a conflict in Ukraine, so very close at home, absolutely is not of any interest. But we, European Union, we have no means to solve the problem. And we are unable to do that. And we are divided enough not to find a common language toward Kiev. If the question is, Russia has an interest, of course. The main interest of Russia, and you know better than me, the Russian, let's say, feelings, the Russian mentality, is that they are afraid always to be surrounded by enemies. And in order to destabilize the counterpart, the enemy, the best way is, and this is what is happening, of course, is to destabilize the borders around the Russian Federation, in order to have always the possibility to switch on and to switch off with new tensions. Abkhazia, Crimea, everything all around, or even Afghanistan if you want, everything must be unstable in order to be enough safe inside and in order to destabilize any attempt of the counterpart to join, or let's say to come close to the Russian borders. Of course, this is quite stupid in a period when the military strategies are shifting from real territories, real wars, the waged wars, to the so-called hybrid warfare, cyber warfare, etc. But there are sentiments, there are mentalities that cannot change. And however, the idea of Russia is better to have unstable borders that are not helping the enemy than have stable borders that are helping the enemy. Now, the point is to transform who is outside this border, not in an enemy. So far, always, the West, the NATO, if you want, the Washington, not really European Union, has been considered an enemy in Moscow. If we can change this point, and then from enemy we become partners, then we can find also solutions for Ukraine.
Thank you. And one more, the last but not the least from me. Talking about the problems inside the EU now, is there gonna be one more new migration crisis inside Europe, as there is so many problems in Afghanistan, so many people are now in Europe who would be in Afghanistan?
I think that this is an exaggerated problem, the Afghanistan migration. Migration there will be also in the future, but I think such a big migration as we have seen, that was an attempt of destabilizing Europe, very well done during the Balkan way. We are not going to face it anymore. You have the problem. Belarus has a problem. Let's say Vilnius has a problem because everything just shifted there. But as you see, numbers are much less as it was at that time in 2015. I think it was the year of the Great Migration. But that was a clear geopolitical attack to the European heart, let's say, to the system, the North Atlantic system, because what happened? It was a cleansing moment of certain territories in the Middle East. It was a way of financing the terrorism, and there was a way of destabilizing the enemy, the West. And they did it very well. Afghanistan is a completely different story. We can have, of course, migration. We will try to solve the problem with the airlift in a way, but I don't see the great push that can be such a big issue as it was in 2015, if this was the question, of course.
Дякуємо, Ірино, за запитання. Їх було аж 3. І це дуже добре, тому що коли виникають запитання, є про що говорити, значить, це потрібна тема. І надалі я хочу надати слово для запитання тут присутньому Міші. Міша, твоє слово.
Алло, мене чутно? Доброго дня. Маю таке запитання. Є інформація, що у декларації, підписаної країнами-учасницями установчого саміту Кримської платформи 23 серпня, міститься ряд пунктів щодо можливості спільних дій в міжнародних організаціях. На ваш розсуд, як це можна практично використати для досягнення поставленої цілі платформи, тобто мирне повернення території Криму у склад України, і як взагалі практично повинна спрацювати Кримська платформа? Дякую.
May I kindly ask for the translation? I try to get it.
Did you hear the translation?
No, unfortunately, no.
Oh, I see. Just a second, please.
Прошу пробачення. Є інформація, що у декларації, підписаної країнами-учасницями установчого саміту Кримської платформи, немає?
Do you hear now?
No, unfortunately, no translation.
Okay, just a second.
I'm trying to get in the Ukrainian language. I like it very much. We have Slavic language together, but sometimes I'm missing the important point.
Please, can you choose English channel?
English channel? Don't complicate my life. I'm a beginner with these things. I'm against the cyber warfare. I am on English. Everything is in English. Where I should go? Interpretation? No, English.
Laris.
I got it.
You have to switch off the original tone. There is a second point.
English. It seems that could work. Let's try again, my dear friend.
З'явилася інформація в мережі, що декларація, яку підписали 23 серпня країни-учасниці установчого саміту Кримської платформи, містить певні пункти, що ці країни можуть співпрацювати у міжнародних організаціях стосовно того, щоб Крим був повернений у склад України. На ваш розсуд, як це можна взагалі практично використати для досягнення цієї цілі? І як взагалі практично має спрацювати Кримська платформа? Дякую.
Thank you very much, and thank you very much also to the translator. Very good. Sorry for it was my fault. As I told you, I am absolutely safe on the side of the cyber warfare. I have no clue about all these things. So the information that the Crimean platform could be transformed in something much more than a declaration and a platform of cooperation, exchanging point of views and coordination of politics, it's false. So it means the platform is going to be nothing else than a platform of discussion, exchanging of information, and political point of view. Of course, it's very clear defined. It means that in this declaration that I have here in front of me, but I think that you perfectly know, it's clearly say that the annexation is illegal. It's clearly say that the platform is a tool for consultancy and coordination. So it's declared inside. So it's clearly defined. It is something that would like to support the maintenance of the minority rights in Crimea for the Ukrainians, for the Tatars. It's something that will should work for the reinforcement, support of the international right. It is something that is condemning the occupation, the momentary occupation of Crimea, etc., etc. It's nothing else than this. It is divided on three levels: political, experts, and parliamentarian, in order to give to all three levels the possibility to discuss, to exchange point of view, etc., etc. Going back to on the field in order to reconquer Crimea, well, now we are in the hypothesis. If you are counting on NATO or somebody else, forget it. If you think that you can do it alone, you are very, very much welcome, of course, from all the West, and all the West will support you, condemning officially, but of course supporting in the back. That's the reality in this moment. Condemning the use of force, of course. Be clear why condemning in case of war.
Дякую за відповіді. Ларіс, як завжди, чітко, відверто, контроверсійно.
Sorry for that.
У мене тоді питання. З точки зору класичної геополітики, наскільки така країна, як Україна, може вибудовувати дійсно суперстосунки між двома різними системами, маю на увазі між Євросоюзом з його цінностями і Росією з іншого боку, і бути посередником. Да? Це перше. І друге, зважаючи на те, що Україна протягом цих 30 років не просто декларує свій європейський шлях, а намагається його імплементувати. І ми докладаємо для цього зусиль. І за цю імплементацію в нас люди гинуть. І, відповідно, у нас глибоке переконання, що успіх України – це смерть Росії в її теперішньому вигляді. Як тоді нам вибудовувати те, що ви пропонуєте, суперстосунки з Росією? Дякую.
Thank you, President. Of course, as I told you, just not talking in this anymore so much about the Crimean issue. I know it's stupid. It seems stupid, but unfortunately, in order to create an atmosphere of trust and of cooperation, of course, we have to avoid very much frictions. Of course, not avoiding to maintain your clear positions on the point. Of course, trying to maintain the position on the field. We are now real politicians, okay? Meanwhile, trying to be the bridge between, let's call it, between the East and the West. I know, as I told you during the beginning of my speech, it could seem to you on the field quite crazy. As it was crazy for me in the beginning of 2000 to think that knowing the history of Russia, knowing the geopolitical pretension of Russia during the history in Europe, knowing the national, the targets of the national interest of Russia in the Black Sea, in the Dardanelles, in the Mediterranean Sea, to think about bridging Moscow with Brussels and Washington. But it was very well done, and let's say a lot of positive results has been achieved during that years of cooperation between Washington, Brussels, and Moscow. Because of not going on this path, not continuing on this path, we had your problem, and we have today to talk about the problem of Crimea. So we can return on that. What kind of possibility has Ukraine to do that? Well, believe me, a lot. You have just to be convinced that you are a very much important security and stability player in not Europe, but on the global level, because you are. Because your instability and your security issues are of concern of all us. Even if, as Carlos unfortunately said, but this is true, we have no daily information about Ukraine or about Crimean issue on our media, but you are the trembling bridge between problems. And if you can find the language of bridging these two words, we owe you a lot. What? We are all Slavic, a bit Austrian, a bit I don't know everything, because we are a mixture of culture and histories, and we know each other better than any other else. You know perfectly, much more than we know the Russians, and you know the West mentality, you know the so-called East mentality. You can play on the feelings of one and the feelings of the others. You can explain to one and explain to the others. Let's find the ground of common interest to build this space of cooperation coordination. That is also the request of the Crimean Platform Declaration. The Crimean Platform Declaration, I have to say, being inside, it's done, at least I'm talking, of course, of the level of experts. It's done by smart people. They are very much, let's say, real orientated. So nobody is talking about great principles and fantasies, but everyone is absolutely aware of the real situation on the field and the possibilities that the global picture of balance of power is giving to you. Now, the point is that you have to clearly find your mind, your politics, that the world is really moving from one world order the world order of the post-World War II to a new world order that is coming and nobody has a clue what kind of world order will be. And you are in the middle of this road, in this path, and you can co-shape this path together with us. We would appreciate very much if you can give us a smart contribution, because we are lacking of smart leaders.
Дякую за відвертість
Так, і у нас ще одне є питання від генерального секретаря ПАН Європи Австрії Райхарда Клочика, тому Райнхард, тобі слово.
Thank you very much, Laris. Well, unfortunately, I have to agree with many things you said. But let me come with a question from, let's say, the other side. You said that Europe is not unified, Europe is weak. And one of the consequences of this situation is that Russia can do what it is doing against Ukraine, and we see what is happening. Imagine the situation Europe would not be so ununified, but unified. What would be your advice to a European foreign policy to solve this problem and organize some kind of safe border to Russia, between Russia and Ukraine? What would Europe have to do to solve the problem that we are facing in Ukraine, not only with Crimea, but also with the eastern part of Ukraine, but also when we think about Belarus and what's going on there at the moment?
Thank you very much, Reinhard. First of all, I will not tell to Karl von Habsburg that you are agreeing with me. Secondly, mainly. Secondly, let's dream. Let's dream that Europe is unified, that Europe has a foreign policy, and that Europe has a military strength. Well, in this case, it will be a completely different story, because we know, all we, analysts or non-analysts, experts or not experts, we know that the Russian knows only one reason, and this is force. And if you are unified, if you are strong, if you stick together, and if you move your forces on the border, well, I'm absolutely sure that in 5 minutes, at least we not solve the problem, but at least we have calm and peace there. And then we will start to reconsider the positions, and then we'll start to find the compromises, and then we will start to move forward. Of course, but unfortunately, this is a dream. We are European Union, and we are not unified, and we still will not be unified for probably years. Sorry, I was now I found it. They understand only one argument, the argument of force.
Добре, дякуємо Рейнхарду за запитання і Ларісу за відповідь. У нас ще є одне питання з чату, і воно звучить так. До пріоритетів сучасної геополітики належать і проблемні питання корінних народів у всьому світі, то Україна має в рамках Кримської платформи зробити свій вагомий внесок у вирішення проблем, пов'язаних із проблемами корінних народів і так само національних меншин.
Sorry if I understood well the question. If the Crimean platform is giving us the possibility to support claims of minority around the world, it means the safety.
Це питання щодо самого населення в Криму.
Yeah, yes. Of course, this is clearly stated, and of course, I would like to let's say give a lot of importance on this point, because if the Crimean region is declared a border region, well, then there is a very few possibility to, let's say, to defend them. Because once this is declared the border region, they have to sell everything. The Ukrainians and the Tartarians that are not recognizing the Russian authorities or are not taking the Russian passports, they will have to sell everything in 1 year. If not selling, of course, everything will be confiscated by the state. So this is absolutely a clash with human rights. So the platform is stressing the point of supporting the minorities there, Ukrainian, Tartarians, and et cetera, but it's not taking into account, of course, these last moves of the Russian Federation. Now, these moves are on the table, and of course, I would say more than the military side, this must be an argument where somebody, the West, should immediately counterattack, because this is, of course, a problem of human rights. Somebody, a lot of people, will lose a lot immediately in few months.
Дякую за вашу відповідь. І останнє запитання. Які можуть бути, на вашу думку, пріоритетними заходи щодо питання підняті щодо заходів Кримської платформи?
I can't say that there is a one priority issue inside the platform. I would say that I would start from the visit of your president in the United States of America, if you allow me. Not really positive. It was a nice, pleasant visit, of course, of declarative support from the United States of America. But once that we are going on the concrete, and we are talking about the Nord Stream 2, or we are talking about the real investments in Ukraine, or the real support of NATO, well, of course, we see the reality, a complete lack of real support. So what is the reason of the existence of the Crimean platform is right this, to have a lot of friends, at least officially declared friends, together in one environment, the platform, to be daily contacted and updated on the problems. And a platform that is declaratively open also to any other counterpart. So is the platform itself the main value of the platform declaration? So everything that is declared inside is fine. The platform must become the tool of the Ukrainian diplomacy abroad. Friendly tool of coordination and cooperation. I know it seems not a lot in the real politics, but at least is a good tool and is not hurting anybody. So use it because it's well done as an idea on 3 levels, and give you the possibility to coordinate and contact all the signature parts daily.
Дякую за вашу відповідь.